Celtics Beat is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in a new edition of Celtics Beat. Great to be here with you. Adam Kaufman, Evan Valenti, and a good friend of the program. He's been on with us in a little while, so it's good to have him back. He once hosted this show, as a matter of fact. Jared Weiss from The Athletic. Jared, how are you, pal?
Hey, yo, I'm good. It's rainy. I wore pants for the first time, like on purpose, in like 4 months.
We can't tell.
No. There's pants below the shot for the people watching on YouTube. Or
even if they
who
weren't,
knows?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Has anybody ever done the no pants Zoom before? I will admit I've never actually done it.
Well, what do you mean no pants? Like truly sitting there in the buff, or like just underwear?
Just underwear.
Sure, absolutely. More than once.
Why would I wear pants on a Zoom?
Yeah, I mean, you can't see anything. I'm not angling my camera down.
I say that as I'm currently wearing pants, but that's only because I had to rush it.
Of my house, yeah, I've got sweats on, or not sweats, but like I don't know whatever that mesh material pant on right now. I'm comfortable.
Wait, Kaufman, you just broke the illusion. You're sitting in front of this gorgeous view of downtown Boston. We all presumed you were sitting on top of a hotel right now, and you
already said it was raining, so you gave away all my secrets anyway. It does look nice.
That's true. That's true.
Beautiful day in the Boston skyline. So, as you can tell, there's only so much to talk about with training camp approaching. I do want to, this is not going to be a conversation, but I do want to say happy birthday to the departed Red Auerbach. If, anyone was going to put together and we're not, for the love of God, we're not going to do this, but if someone was going to do a Mount Rushmore of figures in Celtics history, he's on the mountain. So happy birthday, Red, for sure. And I guess happy retirement, Adrien W Norowski. I feel like, this is big news in the media industry. We should bring this up. I mean, when I think of some bigger moments in Celtics transactional history, namely the is Al Horford coming to Boston? Oh, wait, he's going to Washington. No, wait, he's going to Boston. I think of Adrien W Norowski for sure. But really, the bigger thing is I got to ask you, Jared, because you're in the media space, you're a writer, you're a newsbreaker. Are you showering with the phone pressed up against the glass so you can see updates? Are you going to the urinal holding your phone in one hand and your member in the other so you make sure you don't miss anything big? I mean, the tribute that Adam Schefter gave Woj about the life he has lived on his way out the door. Boy, I mean, it's not a life I would want, and I commend him for doing it, obviously, but I want to know to what levels this affects the average media person who is out there breaking stories.
Well, first off, what person isn't on their phone while they're going to the bathroom? Like, I am genuinely envious of any human being who isn't that addicted to their phone that they can just take a shit in peace. I wish I could do that. So what's funny about what Schefter was saying is that I think all those things would have been noteworthy like 10 years ago, but nowadays that's just normal. Also, any relatively new phone I think is waterproof, so you can bring it with you into the shower.
Fun fact, I've never done that.
Well, it's funny, actually, my phone screen was broken for like the last 8 months, so I haven't been able to do that because I was so scared it was going to get it ruined. I found out I actually have insurance that covers the screen repair, so I just got it fixed, so life is a lot better. But I do remember before I was a actual reporter, I went to the Sloan Analytics Conference in Boston years ago, and Woj was speaking there, and that was back when I was like, oh, cool, Woj, instead of like, oh, that's the guy I'm competing against. Well, unsuccessfully usually. And he was on some panel, and he was talking about, this is probably 10 years ago, how he had his wife like built a shelf in their shower so he could put his phone there. And that was like, everybody thought that was crazy at the time. Now it's like, I have a little space in my shower, kind of like on the door frame where I leave my phone. So during busy season, I absolutely take that with me. Sometimes I shower with my Apple Watch on just so I can get the notifications. But I think during transactional season, for sure, I am not detaching from my phone. I have the screen up so I can see what's coming through while I'm in the shower. I also like a good long shower, so I probably wouldn't be able to get my work done if I wasn't doing it.
So you're not special, Woj,
while you're doing that. Like I'm sorry, Ev. I'm fascinated by this dynamic, and I don't think it's unique. I think there are a lot of people out there that are doing this. Like you said, it's sort of been normalized in the transition, especially or the industry, especially in the day and age of social media and where we're at. But still, like I don't know. I mean, Can you just not like go to a movie and disconnect for 2 hours during a busy season? And just, yeah, I mean, you really like going to sleep at night must be a stressful endeavor on,
Yeah.
hours around trade deadlines and free agency.
No, I mean, I'm not one of those superhumans like Woj and Shams who can just like, when they say pull an all-nighter, they mean like I literally never went to bed and I've been awake for 48 hours straight. Like I can't really do that. I did that when the Celtics won the championship. I think I got home that night from work at like 11 a.m. and I was basically in a coma for like 2 days. Like I'm not physically capable of doing that stuff. I guess I was when I was younger. But for me, during those busy transactional windows, I'll go to bed at like 2 a.m, set my alarm for 7 a.m. I'm like, all right, I'm going to get 5 hours of sleep. So at least I can function the next day and my brain works. And then I'll wake up after an hour freaking out and check my phone. I'm up for 2 hours after that. So I go through that anxiety. I assume, and for me, it's like I'm trying to get something. And, sometimes I'm successful. A lot of the time I'm really close. And then somebody beats me to it from that kind of like super reporter pool. For those guys, they're like actually on it and they're involved in it. So it's like if they go away from their phone for a few minutes, they will miss something. For me, it's like I'm just trying to make sure that I don't miss something. And usually if I'm away from my phone for like 10 minutes, I'm not going to miss anything. But yeah, if I put my phone down during busy season for 2 hours, something's going to come through that I'm going to be behind on.
Not a lifestyle that I envy, honestly, because like Shams talked about it, like how much he's on his phone and what his screen time usage is. It might have been on with like, Up and Adams at one of those like little shorts that comes out whenever those two like get together. And it was like, yeah, my screen time this week was.
Though I'm just gambling. There's a difference.
It's like my screen time this week was like 20 hours, like on average every day. And I'm like, I don't want to live that life. Like I just don't. So kudos to all of you that can do it. Cause it's, you think it's fun, right? It's like, oh, it must be fun being Woj. It's like, no, it's not. It's really not.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
Doesn't look like fun at all.
No.
Yeah, it was funny. I saw, was it like Bill Simmons or something like that was making fun of Adam Schefter's tribute, being like, what was COVID? Was he like a doctor during COVID? And it's like, it's a different type of stress. You don't have, I mean, Woj has a lot. Woj and Shams, like those guys have an incredible amount of responsibility and power. And they don't have to deal with like the trauma of like a patient dying on you and stuff like that. It's just a different type of stress, and it's not going to have the existential pressure that stuff has, but it's just a matter of not being able to get away from it. There's not a ton of professions that have that feeling that like you cannot escape your responsibility in the job. And so while like being like a medic in a war zone is definitely a more stressful, difficult job, it's a different type of pressure. I think we can laud those guys for the amount of work they do while also still respecting people that are in, life-saving professions and things like that.
Yeah, I think for me, and I'm sure I didn't listen to Simmons, but I'm sure this is what he was getting at.
It was hilarious, to Bill's credit.
That's great. I bet it was. I couldn't, if people can't tell watching or listening, I truly could not have more appreciation for the job that Woj has done for decades. And I mean, there's like, we all talk about the Woj bomb and having the notification set on Twitter, and truly like, you see someone report a story and it's like, well, has Woj said anything yet? Like, so there is a power and influence and credibility and all of that comes along with what he has done, what Shams is doing, what, people, like so many others that, attempt to do at that level within the industry, which is not an easy thing, obviously. And you think of the Schefters and the Raps and that in NFL and others in other sports, but at the same time, the announcement, not from Woj, the reaction felt a bit over the top, to where like I was a little late. I was doing other stuff, whatever. So I was a little late to social media and I missed the initial announcement of retirement. And I just start seeing all of these, effectively, for lack of a better word, eulogies. And I really thought for a hot second, Woj was dead. That was what all the tributes sounded like, when it was just, so grateful to the man that he's gone, like he's complete. And I don't know, at a certain point in time, I think we overdo the moment a little bit. I mean, he truly yesterday got to kind of live his own funeral, and like, credit to him, I guess, but I don't know, like no one's going to miss me like that when I'm gone, outside of family and friends, certainly not in the professional world. And we're all replaceable. Even Woj, like he's going to go away and Shams is going to replace him and someone's going to replace Shams eventually. Like, that's just the way it works. But I don't know. Some of this stuff, I'm rambling, but it gets a little over the top, Jared.
I mean, I know I'm not going to get that kind of reception when I retire one day, so or maybe I will.
Get it from us, Jared.
That's right.
I just want the Celtics to be eulogy. I mean, I don't really have much of a relationship with Woj personally. Obviously, I've competed against him on a lot of stories, and I think that Woj, for the people that he was allies with, there's an incredible amount of respect and gratitude and appreciation, and there's a lot of people that speak incredibly highly of him. And as much as he's probably a shark and ultra competitive, it's like you can't get to where you are in an industry like that without also being empathetic and caring and really touching people's lives as well. And so I think that hearing from like people at ESPN, both publicly and privately, it seems like with him, as much as he's an extreme competitor, he also did a lot of things to really enhance people's careers and lives and stuff like that. And I think that's a huge part of it. And then it's also just that like he was a massive pioneer in our industry and completely changed our industry. And he was kind of at the forefront of that. And, and then like other people like Shams have come and have kind of gotten to that level as well and are going to continue to innovate. And I'm sure Shams 10 years from now is probably going to be looked at as a game changer in our industry as well. I mean, he already is, but like now it seems that now that Woj is retiring, this kind of clears the way for him to kind of stand alone on the throne. And like I think these responses generally, when you see people retire, it's just a recognition of like, this person innovated and changed the way that we all perceive this sport. And he's a huge, both like him and Shams are a massive part of the evolution of this sport and the way that it's grown just from a fan base perspective in the social media age. And it kind of feels like while the ratings might not be there compared to football, like the NBA has kind of become the sport in America of the internet and the social media age. And those two guys are a massive part of that.
No, it's for sure. And it's been that way for a long time, in part because Adam Silver and so many others with the NBA, like they get it. They understand the importance of social media and don't, place restrictions on putting highlights out there and don't crack down the same way that leagues like the NFL do. That matters. I mean, that's why when it comes to that stuff, NBA is absolutely king. I just, and we'll move on from this because I'm sure our listeners are already bored from it. I think people are different, in the way that whatever you cover, whatever industry you cover, but locking in on what we're talking about now, people are very different in the way they do their jobs. Like, I hope I'm, not being disrespectful in saying this. I know you've broken lots of stories, but I don't think of you as a newsbreaker in the way that I think of, Woj or Shams as a newsbreaker, but I don't think of them as journalists and storytellers and creative writers in the way that I think of you in that way. So it's just like everyone is different in sort of the lanes that they carve out within this business. And there's a value, which is sort of your point. There's a value to all of it, obviously, but I don't know. I mean, I think you should take those long showers, buddy. Don't worry about checking the Apple Watch and, just recognize that honestly, like the lane that you have carved out for yourself that doesn't even have to involve news breaking unless it's like first to a story, but that's a detailed long, long form story, not like so-and-so was traded to wherever kind of story. You're already hitting that out of the park on a daily basis, bud. And it seems like it would be a somewhat less stressful life to live.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, for me, the news breaking it definitely is a part of the job. It has to be if you want to, really last in this extremely difficult industry. But I enjoy more the storytelling and the analysis part. And for me, the news breaking is more just like a conduit to being able to tell the stories that I want to tell.
Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Over 5 million active members. It's a big number, and for good reason. Prize Picks, it's the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's you against the numbers. That's it. All you do, you pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. You watch the winnings just simply roll in.
Prize Picks is getting you ready for this football season with a slam dunk offer for the entire month of September, folks. Caleb Williams, Bears quarterback, #1 pick. All he's got to do is notch 1 passing yard in any game the entire month of September. Just one, Kaufman. Just one. That's it.
Any game in September, 1 passing yard.
Use that pick with any other combination of stat projections to start building your bank account today.
All right. Well, Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy. So your lineups, they stay in play even if one of your players does get injured. If your player leaves in the first half, doesn't return, Prize Picks, well, they keep your picks still alive, which is a wonderful thing, obviously. Download the Prize Picks apps today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. Get $50 instantly when you play just $5. Code CLNS on Prize Picks. Again, get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to receive to win to receive the $50 bonus. You just get it by playing that $5. I mean, truly, find me a better deal. I'm not sure you can. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. All right. Well, speaking of stories, we're running out of them as it comes to the Celtics and what to expect this coming season. Again, training camp is coming and games in Dubai are coming and media day is coming, which is something I was saying to Ev, before we started up. Like, I used to be so glued to media day and listening to all the interviews and the quotes and, whether it was the public setting interviews that happened in front of all you guys or the private ones that were just on like the NBC Sports Boston and Celtics.com sets with D'Amico and, formerly Pflugrad and whoever else. I don't know. I guess I'm no less interested in the team. So for anyone out there watching or listening, don't confuse that. I'm a little less interested in some of those interviews, in part because I feel like, one, they won a championship, and we've been hearing from these guys all summer long with no delay. And also, there's just not anything they can tell us right now that would be especially interesting. Like the last couple of years, it was, well, all right, Ime's gone. How are they going to react to that? For sure. Or, hey, they fell short in the finals. How are they going to react to that? Or how are they going to bounce back from year one under Joe? What are the expectations year two? And they've made these roster changes. Smart's gone and Williams is gone. The other Williams is gone. You brought in Kristaps. You brought in, Drew. Like, what is this going to look like? But they're just running it back, chasing a championship now, which is awesome. That's a great spot to be in. But in terms of like media day and the ramp up to the year, we've talked about everything. Like, everybody's stories out there right now are, your big questions going into training camp. We've hit all this stuff, Ev. It's the, how's Mazzulla going to keep everyone fired up? And how are Jay and both the Jays, Tatum and Brown, going to respond to offseason disrespect at the Olympics and, lack of MVPs or all NBA or whatever else? Like, what for you, Jared? Because I know you've written recently as well, both for The Athletic, and you could see his work in the New York Times about, the big questions entering the season. I mean, truly, what is the biggest question in your mind going into the year that you truly find interesting?
It's a good question. I think the Jalen and Jason thing is what I think will be most interesting to the public, just because it's the one underdog uphill battle aspect to what these guys have. I think that nobody gets too interested in can't this team repeat kind of thing, because it's like they already won, so like of course they can repeat. But at least Joe is making it interesting. Like when he was talking to Corrales and he wanted the red dot on his forehead and stuff like that. Like at least Joe will find a way to make it fun. And like Tatum, he's spoken The Athletic about the whole Olympic experience. I think he did an interview about it also right after the Olympics. So he's kind of talked about it for the most part as much as he can. He'll get asked about it again, but there's not a ton of new ground to break there. I think Jalen, who's just had a pretty active offseason, he's the one there's going to be the most to talk about with him. We'll see if someone asked Derek White about somebody trying to get in a fight with him at the Colorado football game. that was the most. I don't know what happened there. I haven't even asked anybody about it. But like Derek White of all people getting in a fight is definitely shocking. He's generally he's like the nicest, most gentle guy. But so
your cousin from Boston.
Yeah, there's that. He's your buddy from Boston, and Porzingis. That's the piece of doubt right there. Is just like I assume Porzingis is going to talk, and we're going to get his first update at media day, and so there'll be that piece of doubt to sow. But everyone's back, everyone's getting paid, so I guess it's just people could make narratives about like what's going to happen with the sale, and will this team stick around forever, and that kind of stuff. But there's not a ton of new ground to break with this team, and we know that, and so good luck to everybody, all of us covering the Celtics on media day, trying to make things interesting. Well, everybody will find a way.
One of the things that I think is interesting about this upcoming season, Jared, and I like the fact that you're on for this because you have, I think, a little bit better insight than most people that cover this team. Like, just they had a great season, historically amazing. You know, you can break down all the numbers as much as you want, but in year 2 of this, there needs to be some sort of evolution. There has to be something that's different, something that's changed, something that's better than the year previously. And again, you're a guy that dives into the X's and O's and you can really explain it extremely well to the audience. So I'm asking you, Jared, what are you expecting for the second iteration of this group? Are we expecting any big dramatic changes in your conversations with people across the league? Or is this like one of these things where it's like, nah, they're probably just going to do the same thing, maybe some slight tweaks here and there, but for the most part, they're going to be relatively the same unit because, you know, they were so good last year. Why, you know, if it's not broken, why fix it? You know what I mean?
No, I mean, something has to change because they don't have Porzingis for so long. And so last year, they kind of just rode this wave for the first almost half of the season of we have KP and we can pretty much use him wherever we want. And so for a couple segments of this game, we're just going to slow it down to just KP working out of a post up from anywhere on the court, essentially. And that just, it made things so easy for them because they finally have this way to get through lulls in the game, and they're not going to have that for a while. And so they probably have to change things up about the way their offense operates early on. And like, I know that obviously they played well without him. They won a championship. So like, that's pretty good. Right. But it's going to be different during the regular season because like one, the way that they have to pace guys, they can't just play Horford a ton of minutes. And Horford, while he obviously should be able to do, I think, a lot of what he does, once you get past Horford, the offensive versatility is extremely limited with their center rotation. So Mazzulla is going to have to do something a little bit different than what he did last year. And also what they did last year, teams probably had trouble preparing for it for most of the season because what they were doing was a little bit unique and they were so versatile. But you give teams an off season to go through all of that. They've got their ideas of how they want to attack it. It's hard to defend a title because it's hard to still be ahead of the curve against the NBA unless you have like Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. And then you're like, whatever, we'll just hit a million shots. Celtics aren't quite like that. And so there's definitely room for regression with this team. And I think if they regress, I think they kind of just fall back towards being at the front of the pack as opposed to having a gap between them and the rest of the league. But Joe Mazzulla has proven to be shouldn't say pretty creative. He's really creative. He's really creative. He's really ambitious. He likes trying stuff. He's really good at fitting how he thinks to the roster. And I think the fact that they have effectively the same roster this year means that he doesn't even have to learn how to make things work. And so whatever other ideas he had, they're probably implementing those this year. And they're gonna have to do something different. And I think what's good about this team is that while they were so much like, we'll just play out of whatever based on what the personnel is. Their personnel, not only are they versatile enough to do that, they're also skilled enough that if they want to be like, we're going to force the opponent's hand and not just react to how they're playing us and actually play the way that we want to, they still have a bunch of ways that they can do that.
I appreciate too that with Joe, I feel like, and we've done this a fair amount, I guess, over the course of the offseason, but I just don't think we can praise, laud, discuss Joe Mazzulla enough. You know, there are a lot of people that still have their doubts. There are people that I still see it on social media. Like even today, you know, I was, you know, in the search engine on Twitter, you know, search Celtics and like immediately something popped up again, comparing Mazzulla to Ime. I don't get it. I don't know why you might, if you are out there, still have a preference for the reverse, especially in the wake of winning a championship. That to me, at that point in time, becomes less about coaching and more about, I don't know, you just have a personality issue with Joe Mazzulla or something like that. But I just think Joe is obviously an exceptional young head coach who hopefully will be around for a long time. And to your point, I mean, if there was ever anyone that I I don't doubt is just sitting around with all of his free time and like napkins or notebooks or what, like he's just constantly like, what about this? What about this? What about this? Thinking about how they could do something differently in the upcoming year. Like Jaylen Brown has made the comment in the past about after they were celebrated at Fenway that, they're probably going to have, us out there doing some drill that revolves around us playing shortstop, or Mazzulla.
Which they will.
Yeah, and Mazzulla talking with Corrales about how, he went to the theater and got lost not in the show, but in thinking about how these performers go from singing to talking to singing to talking, and what must their breathing exercises be like. I mean, like this guy, he doesn't shut off. It doesn't stop. Like we know what Ime was doing with his free time, and Brad, I assume, was mostly family based. I don't think Joe ever steps away from this mentally. And again, like Ev, you were saying earlier, there was a poll during the week that ranked Mazzulla like 11th in the NBA among head coaches or something like that.
Nonsense.
How is this guy not properly getting his due, Jared?
I think I saw that Ime was ranked ahead of him in that list. And I think Ime is a really good coach, but like Joe had an unbelievable coaching performance last year. That was one of the best in recent memory. And like a coach can only coach the roster they're given, right? So if you want to credit the roster and the front office for the reason why they won last year, like sure. But Joe changed that team pretty significantly last year. And Joe was able to make it work from a chemistry and an X&O perspective in a way that like the coaches before him didn't quite pull off. And health was a huge part of that for sure, both with them and the opponent. And they won the title easily because of the health of the rest of the NBA. I think they still would have won the championship no matter who they face and how healthy those teams were. But they like the reason why they dominated was because of health. Yeah. So, but I think they're still the best team in the league. I think they still are the favorites to win this upcoming season, and they would have won last year, I think, no matter what happened. And so Joe deserves a ton of credit because he's both really good at managing his players and he's super creative on X and O's and he's really focused and committed. And usually coaches generally only check off 2 of the 3. And he checks all those boxes off. He's an amazing coach. And the funny thing with coaching is that coaches don't have credibility and then very suddenly they get it. And like Joe went from having no credibility in year 1 to like having a good amount of credibility in year 2. And then by the end of it, now he's a champion and there's a cult of personality around him. And so, those perceptions change pretty rapidly. So I almost applaud that coaching ranking for not falling into that trap. But I think anybody who's watched what's happening with the Celtics the last couple of years under Mazzulla can see that he's a great coach. He's definitely one of the top coaches in the NBA.
Yeah, I keep going back to that interview he had with Redick like preseason last year, and how he just seemed way more relaxed as someone who had gone through all the trials and tribulations of being a head coach and all the things that go along with planning throughout the year. And he just had a little bit more of a calm to him. And now, like what I love about Joe is that he's authentically Joe Mazzulla. He's just who he is. And what's the best part is it's translated from top to bottom. Everybody's on the same page. The message is the same. Everybody's picking up what everybody's throwing down, so to speak. And, as you come around to, this potential sale, and Simmons and Lowe talked about this on their podcast this week, which is, somewhat enlightening. You don't want to screw this up. Like that's at this point, the Celtics are in, we can't screw this up mode. Like this is too good. We have a great front office. We have a great coaching staff. We have great players. Like we can't upset the apple cart at this point. This is just too good. And you look at all the teams around the league that are dysfunctional. The common thread that you'll find is like there's dysfunction throughout the entire organization. Like as much as it pains to say, the Pistons have been a mess for what feels like since the 04 Pistons, right? That era ended. Tayshaun Prince and all the Wallaces, they all leave, and all of a sudden now they haven't found their footing since, right? Charlotte, I mean, we hope with Charles Lee as a head coach, they seem to figure things out, but that's been a disaster. Like Sacramento has had versions of this up and down. Now with Mike Brown, it seems like a little bit better. As you get closer to the season, is it comforting knowing like, oh, I know I have a relationship with everybody in the building. If I need to build the story, I know exactly how to talk to everybody. Like I'll reach out to Jared every once in a while, Kaufman, about some questions that he'll ask during press conferences. And I appreciate some of the tones in which you ask them in. But how much easier does that make your job as we get ready for what is a title defense season. Now I know primarily, Celtics are a big topic within everybody, but like the fact that you have connections with everybody in the building and it's stayed the same relatively throughout past couple of years, how much easier does that make your job?
Yeah, it helps. Well, I guess the funny thing is, if new people come into the building, then that gives you an opportunity as a reporter to be like, "Hey, I'm Jared. Let me help you get get situated in the city or whatever." I mean, I don't do like disingenuous kind of thing, but like this team doesn't really have much change in their front office. They lost their GM and then didn't really change anything about the structure of their front office below him. That never really happens. There's been incredible stability with this organization ever since like Grossbeck and Pagliuca took over 22 years ago. They've had probably less change than almost any other franchise out there. And that's a big part of why they've been consistently good, is that because their front office personnel has pretty much stayed the same for a while now, they don't have new front offices come in and shift direction and clear house. And a lot of the time when a new front office comes in and they want to clear house on everything, it's not an efficient way to get business done. So you lose value there. And the Celtics have never had to do that. They also, because of the Nets trade to get JT and JB, they got this like almost unprecedented gift of, we can do whatever we want to build a good team while still having two blue chip prospects come into their wings. So like that was just like something that Ainge put into place that just like it's a cheat code to building a franchise. And I'm sure there's other examples kind of like it, but like there's nothing really like that. Like that was unreal. And that's why the Celtics have had this very unique window of competition that like very few franchises have been able to pull off. And so their front office, like the decision-making tree in their front office is relatively small. It's probably smaller than most organizations. I mean, they've definitely built out their staff more over the last few years, but they keep a pretty tight-knit circle. And so with the Celtics, it's like you kind of have a pretty clear understanding of how they operate and who they are. One of their strengths has been that they're pretty flexible and they're amenable in how they build a team and stuff like that. You look at like a few years ago, they had a window where they had basically like four wings, and they're kind of building like almost like a 4-wing lineup with Horford at the 5, and they were trying to be ahead of the curve on versatility. And because of Hayward's health, like that team didn't work out. And then you look at last year, it was a little bit different, but kind of a similar iteration of the concept, while also integrating the fact that the center position has kind of flourished again and had a revolution over these last few years. And so you can see that there are some kind of core tenets to the philosophies of how this front office builds a team. And you can see some kind of like threads of that over the course of the last decade. And so they're really good about like kind of having their belief system without being so locked into it that they have these huge blind spots. And I think that's a big part of why they're successful. But probably the main reason they're successful is because they cheated the NBA and were able to get Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum while also building a good team.
And we're powered by Game Time. Football season, it's here. Don't let people tell you football season's coming, because listen, the college football season, that is, literally days away. And the NFL season, that is beginning September 5th. It is right around the corner. The time to start planning is coming up. The season with our friends over at Game Time, a great opportunity to get out to games. Obviously, Game Time is a new feature. It is called Game Time Picks. Makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams, like the Patriots, for instance, play live so easy, so incredibly easy. Ev. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff. Okay, shows you incredible deals on great seats. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. There's so many other places that you get bogged down. Game Time, it just makes things so easy.
Yeah, my favorite part, I was scrolling through it the other day, and I was like, this is what's really great is sometimes you have a significant other at home, Adam. Some of us do as well. And sometimes you look at your significant other and say, what do you want to do today? Because I don't know. What do you want to do today? Well, guess what? Game Time has something for you. You can be a little spontaneous. Get a little inspiration from Game Time. Let them help you with their This Weekend tab. Scroll through and find some events that are, around your area. They'll give you the price of everything. You can grab your tickets, have them right on your phone out of the house. It only takes a few minutes for you to do so, and curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater. All of it is shown up front. No surprise fees at checkouts, which is my least favorite thing about buying tickets anywhere. And you get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, Kaufman. It's just way easier.
Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Use Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CLNS. Again, that is code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code. It is CLNS, $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? Game time. Let's get back to the show. And a great team, a championship level team that, went out and won, like you said, and we've all discussed, is obviously positioned to go and repeat. And so you mentioned it earlier. Can they repeat? Of course they can repeat. They just won. They brought everybody back. And yeah, there are some injuries, but they're not going to be season-long injuries, you hope. I mean, Kristaps going to be back and Horford is going to be load managed until he's not. And you get to the playoffs and all of that. You just hope come April, you're a healthy team. That's the bottom line. Whatever happens before that happens. But if you were looking at it right now and knowing full well that it's hard to go back to back, team hasn't done it in a handful of years in the NBA, and that luck is very important. There was a lot of bad injury luck over the years under Brad Stevens, especially. If you're taking, Celtics to the field after what we saw last year going into this year, who do you think wins?
Well, like statistically, ever picking one team over the field is supposed to be wrong, but like that's annoying. So I'd pick the Celtics, I think. You look at the field and the teams that you feel like are really built at this point to win a championship are New York, OKC, and I guess Denver. Just like I'm never going to rule out Denver. And then Minnesota, Philly, and then, tell me who I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but like those are the teams that kind of like jump out as like also certainly
people would like us to say like, Dallas or Phoenix.
Yeah, Dallas.
Like,
yeah. I won't put Phoenix there yet, but yeah, Dallas I'll put there too. Just like Dallas, I thought had a pretty bad finals. And so like there's still a lot of upside for Dallas to play really well. So yeah, then you look at like the Phoenixes and the Milwaukee's, like those are teams that certainly can pull off a huge bounce back for sure. And then maybe Indiana, all their players still play really well and they win 75 games just because they have like a 12-man rotation that's really good. So and there's probably a team in the West I'm forgetting right now off the top of my head.
Nah, you're good.
Somebody remind?
Not Phoenix, not Sacramento. No, I mean, too early for Houston. You're doing fine. And the Lakers and the Clippers and the Warriors, I'm not considering them in the same stratosphere as teams you listen.
And then, of course, there's the Spurs as Wemby wins MVP as he averages a quadruple double. So we can't forget that.
Yeah, I mean, they'll be part of the conversation eventually, but they're not there yet.
Yeah. And hey, maybe Memphis just has like one of the great bounce back seasons ever. That would be fun. And sorry to Cleveland and Orlando fans. I'm not bumping your team up there yet, but who knows?
Well, look, if we're talking about a championship contender, we can't name half the NBA.
Well, you can. That's the way the NBA works right now. Dallas was, what were they, like the 5th seed last year and they made the finals. So you can name 25 teams before you're like, all right, technically we are done with the contenders. But like the Celtics, like not having Porzingis the first 3 months or whatever it'll end up being, it doesn't really matter. I don't think it matters for them because this team knows that they're going to be a top 3 seed pretty much no matter what they do. They know that they're going to have to kind of coast a little bit during the regular season. Like they know that's how it's going to work anyway. And they have more than enough time to get Porzingis integrated and up to speed. Like they've got months and months and months to do that. So they know that they're a team that's playing for the postseason and they know that they are built for the postseason. So there's nothing about the way that there's nothing about the current health prospects of this team based on what we saw last year to presume that they're not going to be positioned to win the championship again. And even if the rest of the league catches up to them, they still are built in a way that unless some guys have huge offensive regressions, like they're still built in a way to win. I think it mostly comes down to like Tatum and Brown. Are they still committed to playing the way they did last year?
Totally agree. Not going to fight you on that. No way.
You can fight me. I love a good fight. Go for it.
Not about that. I totally agree. I think look, they're loaded. They're loaded. And as long as everybody stays healthy, they'll be involved in the postseason. So
they will be involved. I assume so.
Yeah. I mean, look, and they know what they're capable of when healthy. So there's not going to be this push like there's been maybe in the past quietly for a number one seed or X number of wins, or even necessarily having to have home court. Now, they're talented enough that certainly a top 4 seed should just happen naturally, barring some devastating injury, obviously. But whether they're the 1 or the 2 seed, like, who cares? It doesn't matter. What matters are they healthy when they get into the dance? And then, they can set themselves apart, obviously, and hope there isn't some absurd bad luck shooting the 3 or something. But I mean, what they did last year, and we've relived it enough times, maybe not enough times, is just, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy how well built, how well rounded they are, and what they're capable of. And that's obviously of truly making a run. And when I say a run, I mean a title run, not just a run throughout this year. Multiple championships, which is what everyone's got their eyes on at this point. But all right, it's a good place to wrap there. Again, media day and training camp and all of it right around the corner, Jared. And I'm sure much more in store for you and your reporting and everything as we inch closer to the season as well. So we always enjoy when you hop on with us, and we'll look forward to whatever story you're pumping out next.
Whatever.
Anything you want to promote before you go, or should we just watch for you on social media?
Yeah. Stay tuned. I got plenty more coming next week, so stay tuned.
All right, beautiful. Get Jared on Twitter at Jared Weiss NBA, because that's what he covers, folks. For Evan, I am Adam. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks to the couple people that always tell me how long-winded I am on the YouTube page. We appreciate all of you. Rate, review, subscribe to Celtics Beat. We'll talk to you again next week.